Thank you for having a look at this. This is the kind of text issues that I think about constantly, and I think I may have made a little bit of progress. So while dealing with a horizontal screen, we have problems such as the eye doesn't really want to read something that wide. That's why newspapers and magazines have columns. But we can't just waste the space either. So I have this outline way in Author. You just fold the document into an outline. That's quite useful. I was thinking maybe letting that also be in the left-hand column, and it could even be so when you take your cursor away, it goes away. But what really got my attention today, and has been coming and going for years and years, is bullet points. I really like bullet points because they are skimmable, but they take a lot of space. So I've been thinking about that, and this is what I think might be useful. So here it is, a list. Now it's more bullet pointed. It's got bold text. Bold text often isn't very much liked by academic use, but that's okay. It's quite readable. Here it's not got any bold, but it has got the bullet points. But if we now take that and turn it into a sentence, it becomes much less skimmable, but you get a lot more space. For instance, all this stuff at the bottom here wasn't in the view on the recent one. So there are several ways I could imagine making it more skimmable again. One of them is to bold what was the key points. And that's okay, but it's also not something normally academic, and also it is quite heavy on the page, and using the current author feature of marking text is even more heavy. It really pulls your attention, which is good for some things, maybe not for this. So that's why I decided this evening to try the opposite, which is not leaving it plain, but by fading out the text that isn't the key items in this list. That could include or not include fading out the introduction sentence, depending on whether it's a useful heading or not. But the thing is, it could also be on its own line, so you don't gain as much space, but at least it's got the introduction if you need it. But let's go back to this. I think this is quite skimmable. I like this. Graphically, to me, it makes sense. I can understand, though, that for many it would not be useful when reading it. It might be seen as a gimmick. But I'm hoping that for an author it could be useful. So I've added a command to select text. Instead of mark, which we already have, which is command single quote, I've added fade, command double quote, which is command single quote plus the shift key. So it's quite similar. So if somebody wants to have a list and wants to have it accessible while reading, they can do that. Now, the second key is also taken from the mark command that we have, and that is when exporting the faded text, the user should be able to choose to keep it faded or to make it normal. That will be useful. So when it's exported, even though in the authoring document it looks the same, it can look like what you see on the left here. This is something that could be encoded in the visual meta as semantic markup, so that XR and other systems should be able to see that, oh, okay, this is text that the users decided to mark, and this other text is text that this user has decided to gray out, because it's in a way either filler text or it is doing further exposition that may or not be useful. Anyway, to me, this is a big deal. Let me just go back a few slides. I think this makes things a lot easier to read, and I think that the export option makes it more conventional. Really like to know what you think. Thank you very much for looking at this.